Hello, friends. My name is Steve. This is Steve Talks Books. Thank you for coming by, watching my weekly update. It's where I talk about what I've been reading, what I'm going to read, what I won't get to, and everything else in between. If you'd like to connect with me, the best place is on our forum at pagechewing.com. We have our blog there. We plan all of our group reads and all of our book discussions, all that fun stuff. There on the forum, we also have a Secret Santa thing going on right now. I think it's going to close soon, so if you're interested, hop on right away and let us know. I can also be found on Vero at that one MFer, and I actually did get verified on Vero, and it's not like Twitter where you can just give them $8 and then you get a blue check mark. I actually had to go through and prove who I was. It took a while, but I have a little blue check mark next to my name on Vero. Kind of fancy. I am also on Twitter at Steve Talks Books. And just a note about our forums, if you do register there, I do approve every member individually to weed out the bots and the weirdos. So if you do register, it may take me a few minutes to get to you, so just be patient. And if you do register and we communicated on a different platform, feel free to shoot me a private message and I'll be sure to hop on and hit approve. So lots of new members there, lots of fun stuff coming up that I'll tell you in a minute. But first, let's get to what I've been reading, because it was kind of a tough week, I have to be honest. Not only because of the holiday, but because after reading The Wall of Storms, I had a bit of a book hangover. And that's not to say I'm not enjoying the other books I've been reading since then. It's just, I think all of us have experienced that. I mean, once in a great while, we'll finish a book that really just, you feel like you lived there, and then you leave and you feel, I don't know, you just don't feel like reading anything, no matter what it is. You just feel like hungover. So The Wall of Storms, I can't say enough great things about that book. I'm still thinking about it. That book, something else. But that was last week. Let's talk about this week. This week, I did start The Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. We are having a spoiler-filled discussion Sunday morning. So by the time you watch this, we would have already had that, and it'll be available for you to watch. I'll be with me here from Fantasy Book Critic to discuss all things Sons of Darkness. Sons of Darkness there's prophecies, there's lots of things going on. In the first about 30-40%, it was lots of setup and kind of establishing what's going on. And after that, things get rolling pretty good, and especially towards the end. But it took me a little bit to get into it, and I can kind of struggle with names sometimes, especially in fantasy books. I struggle with names. So I'm enjoying Sons of Darkness. I'm recording this on Saturday, and I'm going to finish the last 100 or so pages today. So I'll be ready for tomorrow morning. And then by the time you see this, I would have finished it. Time travel. I've also been listening to Come With Me by Ronald Malfi. I am reading this with Jane from Lady Jane Books, and I'm listening to the audiobook on this one. I've been listening as I ride the bike or doing odds and ends things. So far, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I am making some connections between the way Ronald Malfi writes relationships and these marriages and relationships, and it kind of reminds me of some of the short stories from We Should Have Left Well Enough Alone. Kind of that same setup, but it's been better because we have more context. We can explore it more because it's a novel and not a short story. But so far, it's like a mystery that's unraveling, and I have some theories, but we'll see how it's going. And it's strange going from a fantasy book to something like a horror mystery thriller type of book, because there's a lot less for your brain to process because you already know the world that you're reading about because you live in that world. So it's different. It's a very different experience, but it's nice. It's nice to have that, and that's been a nice break after The Wall of Storms. It's nice to have a book that you are familiar with, that that the world you're familiar with the world. It doesn't take you a while to get established into the book. So it's been a perfect antidote for the book hangover. And also, I did finish up The Thousandfold Thought. It's the last book in the Prince of Nothing trilogy, and we did discuss that Friday. That video will be out this coming Friday, and then we are taking a week off before starting the other series, The Judging Eye, before the second apocalypse. So we are taking 1 week off, but you'll have that video and audio next week. So we'll be all caught up, and then we'll catch back up the following week. But I finished the last 100 pages, and I won't give a whole lot away, but the last The last 100 pages has a lot of stuff in it, a ton of stuff. Now, the trilogy sets up a lot of mysteries. It sets up a lot of, not even really mysteries, just history, and you get bits and pieces of it. There's a ton that's not wrapped up in this first trilogy. It almost felt, and we discussed this in the video that you'll see next week, but it's almost like a prologue to the second series. There's just so much stuff that just hasn't been explained yet. There's bits and pieces, but it was neat seeing little details that were sprinkled in through the first 3 books. And then we know now what certain people were or weren't. So it's nice to look back on those moments in the earlier books. And so those little clues that were sprinkled in, because you wouldn't notice it, but on a reread, or if you're really paying attention, you may notice small little details that will pay off later. So I'm satisfied with the trilogy, but I'm not over the moon satisfied. It's like, I still want to know more. So I'm happy with it, but I wish we'd have had more closure on some of the storylines, but there's another 4 books plus, hopefully someday. So this week I will be continuing to listen to Come With Me by Ronald Malfi, and I will be restarting House of Chains. So we will finish book 3 and book 4. And I mentioned this on the Friday conversation, but on December 10th, Layla and I had been planning to meet up to discuss the remainder of House of Chains to wrap up the book before we continue on. And I thought, I'll invite Steven Erickson. Why not? And I know he's a very busy man. He has lots of stuff going on. So whenever I send out these emails, I never really expect to hear back. I just expect to either not hear back because I get lost in the shuffle for, totally understandable, or someone just may not be available, or, things don't work out. But thankfully, I heard back within, not very long, that he's going to join us for the discussion. So on December 10th, it's a Saturday, we will be discussing the rest of House of Chains and the previous 3 books, and Layla and I have other questions for him. So if you've read the first 4 books, come by and interact with us, and we'll be hearing from the man himself. So excited for that. Excited to wrap up House of Chains before we continue on to the next one. And I forget what the title is for the 5th book. I'm just so wrapped up in House of Chains right now that I don't even want to think ahead just yet. So yeah, but I'm excited about that. That made my day. So good stuff. And on the channel this week, we did have the Friday conversation, episode 51, with author John Palladino, YouTuber Chris Moen, and book bloggers Nick Borelli, and of course our friend Mahir. We covered a lot of different topics. We talked about Twitter, social media, reviews, arcs, getting books in the mail, as usual, just a ton of different stuff. But it was a lot of fun. Enjoy that quite a bit. It's always fun chatting with those guys and just it's a little bit more free flowing because we've chatted a few times before. So things just kind of take on a life of their own, which is kind of nice to have. And I know that it was a weird time right after the holiday. A lot of people were traveling, so this worked out pretty well. So go by and check that out if you haven't already. Also this week, the Thousandfold Thought chapters 9 through 14, our discussion with Daniel and Katerina, is available on YouTube right now. So go check that out. And also, of course, we'll be discussing Sons of Darkness with Gurev Mohanty and Mahir. So by the time you watch this, that would have already happened, as long as nothing goes crazy bad. So it should have happened, but if it doesn't, then my apologies. So also on the channel this week, we do have the Friday conversation with Nicholas Kaufman. Nicholas came by last year to discuss his new book, and we had just so much fun. And Nicholas has a new book on its way, and I'm working on getting a couple of guests to join us, but it'll for sure be Nicholas Kaufman and I and a couple of other guests. Like I said, I haven't heard back just yet, but I'm working on that. So we'll see how that all works out. Also, the Thousandfold Thought full spoiler review or full spoiler discussion will be on the channel on Friday. Like I said, we are taking a break before Judging Eye. Also, my review for Dog Meat by Priscilla Bettis will be on the channel this week, probably Wednesday morning. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So I did mention we have a few buddy reads going on the forum. So I wanted to tell a few of you about them if you wanted to join. These are open to anyone who wants to join us. Of course, if you'd rather join in the stream, that's awesome too. Of course, not everyone wants to be on camera, but check it out if you're interested. In some of these, you can get arcs on the forum. There's some forums there. You can request an arc from the authors or post in there in the arc section. But let's go over a couple of these events so you can join if you're interested, or just watch when the time comes. So the first one we have is The Monsters We Feed discussion by Thomas Howard Riley. That's an arc we'll be getting that I have, but the book is released about a week before our discussion. So that is on December 13th. I believe the book releases on the 6th. On December 17th, we are discussing Trials of Ashmount with John Palladino. We are going to be getting deep into that book. On that day, it's 5 p.m. on that Saturday. On December 28th, we will be discussing Brother Red with Adrian Selby. And that one I am very excited for because we had a discussion for The Winter Road. It's one of my favorite reads of the year. And I've been wanting to read Brother Red to discuss it with Adrian. Thankfully, this worked out. We were able to plan something before the end of the year, but just barely on December 28th. Then on December 29th, we will be discussing The Sword of Mercy and Wrath. So come by, join up if that sounds interesting to you. Also on January 7th, we will be discussing The 11th Cycle with Kian Ardlan. And that book has not been released yet. I think it releases in January towards the end, but we're going to be discussing it. And Kian was awesome enough to send over a few arcs for some people on the forum. We set it all up, and I will be doing a giveaway for that book when the book is released as a thank you to Kian and to support his book. So my question for you this week, I have two of them actually. The first one is, have you ever had a book hangover? And when you have, how did you get over it? What did you do to get past it? Like for me, like I mentioned, I've been listening to Come With Me on audio. That seems to be helping quite a bit just because it's not a book that's full of, world building and things like that. It's more of an easier read than what, when you read a lot of fantasy, you get into that mode of having to, create a world when you start a book. That's been helpful to me to kind of get past that book hangover. Second question for all of you is, do you have a holiday strategy? What I mean is when you want to visit friends or family, do you go out and make rounds around the city, or do you host, or what is your approach to that? I think I've gotten to the point where if people want to come and hang out, then they can come by. The door is always open, and kind of just whenever you feel like it, instead of it being having to jump around to try and catch certain people at certain times. It just got to be a little bit too much, and it just wasn't fun. So now, just if you want to come by, we're here. If not, then there's 364 other days we can see each other. No pressure. So being a little bit easier that way, not as much hustle and bustle, a little bit more of a relaxing feel to the holidays since made that change. So enough about me. How are you doing? What are you reading, watching, or listening to? How was your holiday if you observed it? If not, how was your week? What did you do this week? Do you have anything fun planned in the coming weeks? This holiday season is always gets a little, there's always more stuff to think about. So it can be kind of a stressful time. So hang in there if it's you're feeling the holiday stress. It'll pass. So let me know down below how you're doing, how you get over book hangovers, and what your holiday strategy is. It can be for any holiday, whatever holidays you observe. So I hope you all had a great week and have a great week coming up. Until next time, talk to you soon.